I am the greatest. Who said it? The figure of Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, is an interesting one for history. He was a pugilist, as the apostle lists these ones who were trying to get a crown that perished. He gave everything and he got the world championship. Others do it in their sphere. Some go as far as selling their soul to get there. It's known, for instance, that there is an increasing amount of satanic interference in the heavy rock music industry. It seems to bring back money, but what is the price? We, my friends, are not smiting the air or fighting to get a crown that perishes. Septuagesima is the countdown for eventually Easter, but initially Ash Wednesday. And traditionally, over the centuries, it was the beginning of the reading and chanting of the law, therefore beginning at the beginning, Genesis. And in the monastery where I was from for years in France, we started Septuagesima with those solemn readings at midnight and the solemn responses chanted, going through the whole creation and fall of man. For it collocates the whole in that ambit. Easter is the great fixing of it all. My friends, the Gospel talks about getting the payment. Denarius is the amount of money, the coin, that was given for a dies, a day of work. So it's the wages of the labourer. And those who had worked only from the last moment until the end had a full day's pay. Now, there is a parallel actually between this image and the parable that we find in the 15th chapter of St. Luke. You know the one, don't you? It's only found there. The prodigal son. We have two cases there. The one who had always been, in inverted commas, faithful, and the other who came back having squandered all, but came back with a vengeance and had the same rights given back. I can think of a few cases where this would be, in modern terms, the equivalent. There was, now he's not long dead actually, the case of a priest, Father Stephen Shire in America, who was apparently a good and faithful priest. But there was something missing. And he had a terrible accident and he died clinically while much prayer was going on for him. And it turned out that he was not making it. He was going the wrong way. And he gives testimony of what he found and heard. And he explained how before the judge, you can't make excuses. All you can say before the truth is, yes, yes, yes. And he was about to be sentenced. But just before it was pronounced, he heard a female voice, "My son, give him one more chance." And the judge was answering, what use? He has squandered my graces. He has been a priest for himself all these years. And this voice again pleaded, give him one more chance. Give him to me, and I'll take care of him. And the supreme judge was heard to answer, my mother, he is yours. And with that, he came back to life unexpectedly and went round America giving his testimony until very recently he died. And he warned about one thing in particular: the abuse of grace. He was bombarded with graces, but was deflecting them, not collaborating. In the case of a priest, that is grave, because at that point, if he's no longer in a state of grace, he is no longer in a state of intimacy with what he's handling. At the altar, he's not obeying the one that is above him at that point. And it applies also to every Christian soul. We can't worship if the will is not submitted to the divine will. Worship begins there. I know of a case in Italy where there was beautiful worship, but there was an awful mess going on morally between the choir leader and the choir. There were 2 abortions which took place in that hamlet. Worship? Question mark. But then there are these who suddenly, out of nowhere, come eyeball to eyeball with the living truth, and from being far away are ignited and explode like a bomb. There was a case some years ago, during still the communist persecution. It was in Poland, actually, and this happened. There was a man who was the son of leading communist authorities in the area. Husband and wife, full-time, fully engaged, and in the whole regime up to there. He was in a street somewhere in a town in Poland, and it was pouring with rain, and he did anything he could to get away from this awful shower. He happened to find himself in front of what? The only door that happened to be open, that of, yes, a church. He went in, and although he didn't know what it meant, he looked straight ahead, and there was adoration going on. Something hit him from somewhere, and he heard this: I exist, and you will be my priest. Eventually, he found his way to the local bishop, who knew his origin and his parents, and dismissed him, or at least kept him on a long finger. He wanted evidence and proof. There could be infiltration, couldn't there? Eventually, somehow, this unexpected candidate showed he meant business, and I believe he shared his story with the bishop, who sat back and had a think, and said to himself, if the Lord is calling, what right have I not to? A lesson, by the way, for a few bishops in some places where prudence deflects and fields good vocations sometimes. And he was ordained and became one of the best priests in the land. When at the monastery I had to handle guests and lead them in retreats, one exercise that I would regularly do would be this: do your next meditation in the graveyard. It was just down the road from the monastery, between the monastery and the village. Spend your time of meditation beside a tomb, which you can always do in Italy because in the summer it's always fine. And they would. And I would say this: that is your tomb. That is your last moment. What, at that moment, in my mind, would I have wanted to have done by then? it worked. It's called an election. One makes an election of a state of life, and if they're young, male or female, it can have an effect and send them to a bishop or a convent. One day in that same monastery, 3 or 4 of us came out of Compline, and because we knew it was going to happen, we looked up into the clear sky, beautiful in Tuscany, and we watched the comet. Going back years now, I wasn't even a priest, and it was spectacular. You could see, as it were, the global vision of things, time and space, distance and eternity. And I thought to myself, that's rather like the journey of the soul at death. Each soul at that point starts to have the same fundamental experience that every soul has had. Wow! I'm no longer in my body, and it must go somewhere. It can't stop going somewhere. And then it's no longer, for the first time, in charge or in command. It follows the result of its life. That, my friends, is subject for thought in this period leading up to Lent. The fixing depends also on our collaboration. It is said that Lucifer was going to be the guardian of the Blessed Virgin. The most splendid angel was going to be looking after the most splendid creature. It was in the context of the Incarnation, and when he saw that coming, he would not condescend to serving someone of a lower rank. Non serviam, the will, I will not obey, I will not serve. And instantly, he didn't think, of course, that was possible, but hell began to be, and he had to flee, and he tried to get as many as he could with him. And they say that about 1/3 of these stars, these angels, fell. Michael rallied the good angels and kept them from falling too. And when we came along, our creation, we had the odds against us, for this presence was already there. And he always, from the beginning, tried to get these lesser creatures, men, through something that appeared nice. We are only caught by what is attractive. He knows also how to get the little people by what is attractive. Look at your average Disney. You have no longer Snow White, but little nice demons and vampires. And he would wiggle his way into their mind in such a way that they think that what is nice is good. The sting is in the table. As with the pop stars and those who want a career at the price of their soul, if they sell it, so too he can get us all by what is attractive. The big people with nice pictures on screens. The little people with just a little bit of the ugly, which they think is good. Beware! Old Nick is far cleverer than we are and never sleeps.